So, Mr. Matos, how's everything going with you, my good man? You okay?
I'm doing well. How you doing, sir?
I'm great, Mr. Matos. Well, we are here today to conduct this interview with you so you can tell your side of the truth and what really happened. But before we go off into that, Mr. Matos, you've been gone for a total of about what? You've been gone six, seven, what,
Se-
about 6 years, 7 years,
se- Almost 7 years. About
almost
7 years.
about 7 years. Okay, Mr. Matos. Within that 7 years, in the Florida Department of Corrections, what is it that you've been doing there, sir?
Just educating myself. I've been reading a lot, taking classes. I've been in the faith-based program for a year and a half now. I just left Blackwater River. I was in the faith-based there, and I was taking multiple classes. I was working in education. I was a teacher's aide, and I had another job, cleaning the schoolhouse. And also, I've been writing an autobiography. And right now, I'm in another prison that I just moved to, and I'm also taking classes here, civics, life mapping, and multiple other classes.
Okay, that's cool, Mr. Matos. Now, Mr. Matos, we got to get straight to business here, Mr. Matos. You are right now. You are on death row. Am I right,
No, no, I beat the death penalty, and I got life.
Mr. Matos? You and Miss Megan Brown. You guys were a item at once upon a time, and you guys do have a son together by the name of Tristan. Am I right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we do.
How old is Tristan today, sir?
Tristan is 11. He'll be 12 October 6th.
October 6th. Okay, that's a great thing. Now, Mr. Matos, we want to look at it that during this time of this crime, Tristan was 4 years old, and not Christian, but Megan was 28. Am I right or wrong?
I believe she was 27. I believe she was 27.
27.
But
Okay, because the media got her at 28, sir. So,
28. I think I was 28 and I was going on 29, and she was 27. Yeah, she was 27 at the time. I was 28, going on 29.
okay. Well, see, that's always good to talk to the source.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Matos, on August 28th of 2014, there was a police call made. It was placed by Megan. Megan claimed that
Yeah.
you had threatened her with a knife. Is that true, Mr. Matos?
No, I didn't. I didn't threaten her. I just wanted to scare her. I was trying to get truth from her, and I had a knife in my hand, and I was just trying to scare her. Yeah, I wasn't trying to hurt her.
Okay, Mr. Matos. All right. So during that time that the police was called, tell us, okay, you just pulled a knife on her and just threatened her and nothing more. That's right?
That's what they said.
No, that's what I'm asking you.
I was just, yeah, I just scared her with it. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just wanted to scare her.
Okay, when the police arrived, were you at the location?
No, no, I had taken off, and I just wanted to cool off. So after I left, I went a couple blocks away, and just sat, in the back of someone's yard, and I was just cooling off, and I fell asleep for I don't know how many hours, and I was just, trying to just clear my head, and cool off.
Okay. So he's just trying to clear your head and cool off. What
Yeah.
led to this argument or what happened? What led to this?
Well, there was a lot of weird stuff going on around the house, and Megan was getting harassed by a woman. I believe her name was Michelle Stinson. She was the ex-girlfriend of Nicholas Leonard, and she had people that lived in our area, and she lived out of state. So the friends that she had in that area was leaving messages for Megan on her vehicle. Um, you know, saying that she was I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was pretty much like kind of threatening, telling her to stay away from Nicholas, that they know what's going on, and Megan even brought it to my attention what was going on. She said that someone left a message on her car, and she offered to call this lady and let her know that she was happy with someone. She had someone, which was me, and she didn't need this guy. She assured me that he was ugly, and that he was bald and fat, and she was just she was just playing us. She was playing both of us, letting us know that nothing was going on between the other, but she just kept lying about it. And this lady, she had somebody come to the house. There was some Asian guy, and he left me a number. He told me to call her. Once I called her, she told me what was going on between Megan Brown and Nicholas Leonard, and I didn't believe it. My heart wouldn't let me believe what was what I was hearing, and so I talked to Megan. I told her what this woman told me, and she just denied it. She said this woman was crazy, that she was stalking her, so she called the police and told the police that this woman was stalking her. And this woman, she worked for the phone company, and she was telling me, what Megan was doing. She was telling me, when she was calling him and the messages between them. So, there was a lot of, games that were being played, between all these people. I felt like they were playing these mental games with me, and Megan just didn't want to tell me the truth. And eventually it led up to the argument that we had that day.
So now, that was the argument that led up to the police being called.
Right.
Okay, now Mr. Matos, August the 28th, 2014 was the last time any family member had heard or seen from Megan or her family. Was that the day you committed the murders?
Yes. August 28th.
August 28th of 2004. Now, Mr. Matos, 2014. 14, my fault. August the 28th of 2014. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me break down what had happened and how it happened. Let me give my audience a run by and a play-by-play of what happened, and then we can get into the truth of what happened here. Now, Megan Brown died with a gunshot wound to the head. Megan's father, Greg Brown, died of a shotgun wound to the torso.
Was that what they said, a shotgun?
Yes, they said a shotgun, but it was a gunshot. We made it crystal clear. You and I, we spoke. You said it was a gunshot wound, okay? Now, gunshot. Megan's mother, Margaret Brown, died of blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation. She was found with a plastic bag over her head. And Megan's new boyfriend, Nicholas Leonard, died of blunt force trauma to the head. Now, Mr. Matos, who was the first to go, and down the line, who was next and who was next?
Well, first it was Nicholas Leonard, then it was Gregory Brown, then it was Megan Brown, then it was Margaret Brown.
Okay. Now, go into details, full details of what happened that night. Not what happened, because you told us about the argument. While you were there in the home, what happened to lead up to all of this? Go ahead, Mr. Matos.
Well, after I left, I cooled off for many hours, and I had to come back to the house. Everything I had was there. I wanted to talk to her and see if we could work things out. I had to see Tristan. I couldn't just leave without saying goodbye. So when I came to the house to get my stuff and to talk to her, Nicholas Leonard attacked me when I came into my room, and he grabbed me by the throat, and he pulled a pistol out, and I grabbed his arm, trying to hold the gun away from me, and we wrestled around the room for a little bit, and I found there was a knife on her dresser. I used that to defend myself, and I stabbed him in the arm. He started bleeding all over the place, and when we fell down on the bed, her father came into the room. He had a rifle in his hand, and Megan was telling him to shoot me. And I told him, I said, "Greg, don't do this. Don't shoot me, Greg." And he pulled the trigger, and it malfunctioned. He didn't get a shot off, and he just kept trying to get a shot off. He was looking at the weapon, trying to get it to work. And again, he tried to pull the trigger, and it wouldn't fire, and it continued to malfunction. So, time was running out, so I was able to get the gun out of Nicholas' hand, and I shot the wall. There was an accidental shot, and then I shot Nicholas in the stomach, and that's when Greg and Megan left the room. She put Tristan in his room, and there was some type of allegations in the court saying that at some point they thought that I locked him in his room or something. Megan had changed the locks that day when I was gone, and she put new locks on his room and a lock on the downstairs door leading up to the kitchen. So she was able to lock him in his room from the outside, but he was also able to get out of his room from the inside with the latch. It was like a boat lock. So he was able to turn it from the inside of the room to let himself out. So there was a key on the outside. So anyway, she put him in there. She went to the master bedroom with her father, and that's where Gregory Brown had an arsenal of weapons in his closet. He had multiple shotguns, rifles, and lots of ammo. So he was loading up a rifle, might have been a shotgun, and when I came into the room, he was loading it up, and I shot him once in the back, and when he turned around with his weapon, I shot him again in the chest, and he was dead right there. And I turned, and I shot Megan. She had something in her hand. I wasn't sure if it was a weapon, and I just reacted, and she died instantly. So at that point, I snapped. I was so angry about what had happened. Her dying, her father dying, and when I went back to our bedroom, Nicholas was just lying there on the floor. He wasn't moving, and there was tools left over from when they changed the locks. They left the tools in the room. There was drills, and there was a hammer, and I picked up the hammer, and that's when I used it on Nicholas, and that's when I hit him on the head with it.
So at that point, you would say all of these were instant deaths, quick deaths. Nobody suffered.
Yep. Nobody suffered. It was quick.
Okay, now when you shot Megan and her body fell, what went through your mind? Just what was it like?
It was the worst feeling ever, and by the time it happened, it was too late to change what I did, and I knew right there I knew that there was no bringing her back. It's the worst moment of my life, losing her and knowing that Tristan wouldn't have his mom he wouldn't have his grandparents, and eventually he would lose me too.
Okay. Now, Margaret Brown was your last victim. She was the last one to die.
Yeah.
Tell us, is it true that before Margaret got there that you ordered pizza and was eating pizza waiting for Margaret to get home? Is that true?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was before she got home. It might have been like the next day or something.
Okay, the
But
next day. Okay,
yeah.
let's go into detail about Margaret. What happened when she arrived home and what was your mindset? Go ahead.
At that time, there was just so many emotions going through my head. You know, just anger, sadness, confusion, and you know, I was scared. I was in fear of my life. You know, multiple people were trying to kill me, and I felt like she was going to kill me too. You know, the fact that these people ambushed me, they were ready for me, they were prepared for me, they had arsenal of weapons, they were loaded, ready to go. I was outnumbered. I had no firearms, no weapons, and they were ready for me. You know, they had this planned out, and I'm sure Margaret knew that this was going to happen, and you know, she went to work knowing that these people were waiting for me. If she was to come home and see what had happened, there was a good chance maybe she might have tried to kill me too. So at that moment in time, I lost my mind. You know, it was like I was going insane, and you know, I felt like she was going to kill me too. So when she came home, there was a noise in the garage, and I just went down to the garage. It was dark, and I couldn't see. And as soon as she came into the garage, that's when I hit her. And I struck her twice with the hammer, and that's when she was dead. And the bag that I used, it was to eliminate blood getting everywhere. It wasn't to, you know, torture her or to choke her. It was just to eliminate further mess.
Okay, so when you hit her, did she instantly drop? Did she make a noise, or you hit her and it was done?
She was. It was just as soon as I hit her, she was down. There was no pain. There was no noise.
Okay, now because in the coroner's report it says asphyxiation. So is it safe to say that when you struck her in the head twice, that she was just unconscious and you put the bag over her head and she was still alive? Could we say that could have been the situation where they got the asphyxiation from?
No, that's not true. She was already dead before I put the bag over her head.
Okay, so if she was already dead, so was there, like, when you say this mess, was she still bleeding from the wound, or that was like brain matter and stuff there that you were trying to get from messing all over the place?
Honestly, I can't remember how long it was in between,
Hmm.
but I know that she wasn't moving. I could tell that she wasn't breathing. So it appeared that she was already gone.
Okay. Now, after you killed Margaret, the fourth victim, did you leave every victim in a separate room, or did you bring them all to one room?
Eventually, I had to move them, and I brought them all down to the garage. That's where I had to put them in the van, get them out the house.
Okay. Now, we're moving a little too fast. You got them to the van. Okay. Now, just say after you did the killings, you committed the murders of defending yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened right after that? After she was wiped out, she was the last victim. What did you do?
Honestly, I can't remember. It's been so long. I remember multiple times just crying, just sitting there and just lost. You know, it's
Okay.
I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I just kept checking on Tristan, making sure Tristan was okay. Tristan was in his room when this happened, so he didn't see anything. He did hear noise earlier that day when it first happened. He did hear this from his room, but didn't see anything.
Okay. At any point, when Tristan asked for his mommy, what did you tell him?
I just told him she wasn't there.
Okay. Did he cry any,
Nothing.
or he was calm?
He was calm. He didn't cry. At the time, he was really not talking a lot. He was talking, but not much. So when he would talk, he would ask, where's mommy? Where's pappy? Where's mammy? He would call grandma the grandma, mammy and pappy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, did you at any time after put Tristan down the bed, showered and cleaned yourself up? I'm quite sure you did that because you had to be a mess
Yeah.
with all the blood. At any time, did you go to visit? Just go down there and look at the bodies and say anything? Did you?
After dropping him off, no, I didn't go back. It was just after that whole situation, it was unbearable to see them again. It was devastating, and it was just the most horrible situation to experience.
Now, for 6 days, Mr. Matos, you stayed in the home with these 4 bodies. Now, that I'm used to the smell. I smelt the smell of one decomposed body on more than one occasion, and the shit is horrible. You never forget that smell. So
Yeah.
let me go into this right here, Mr. Matos. At what point that night did you start moving the bodies from one room to another room that night, or was it the next day?
I believe that night I started moving them to the garage after Tristan went to sleep, and it was the most disturbing experience ever. Just looking at them lifeless, and once the smell started kicking in, it was even worse.
Now, let me ask you this. Who was the first body that you moved first to the garage? Okay, we're going to say you killed Margaret, so Margaret was already there. So in the house, who was the first body that went to the garage?
Honestly, I can't remember. It might have been Nicholas, because he was the heaviest, so I might have moved him first, but it's been so long I can't remember.
Okay. So let's go back to when did the odor started getting unbearable in this house?
It started probably within eight hours, maybe a little more.
8 hours. Okay, a little bit more. Could you explain to us from your side of the truth, 4 decomposing, rotten bodies? What were those bodies smelling like, sir?
It's like a rotting fish and ammonia. It's horrible. You want to throw up, and there's these flies that come immediately. These flies come and start feeding on them, and it's horrible. It's a disturbing experience, something you don't ever want to experience.
Like I say, I experienced the smell of one on several occasions, but four, no, that just had to be the cat's meow to that, and I don't think I ever want to smell no more than one at one time. Now, how long did it take? How many days did you stay in this house how many days before you moved the bodies from the home?
I believe I moved them the very next day.
The very
The
next
very,
day.
the very next night, I believe that's when I moved them.
Okay. How did you move them, and what did you move them with, sir?
Well, I had to use rope to tie around their torsos to drag them, and I had to use a dolly to lift them up onto the back of the minivan. And it was a lot of exhausting work. And by the time I was done, I was disgusted. I wanted to throw up. I just wanted to shower, and I was in a worse mental state than I was when it first started. You know, just moving them it did some permanent damage on my mental state, and to this day I still have nightmares about it. You know, it's something that I can't erase from my memory. You know, it would haunt me for the rest of my life.
I'm quite sure that right there would. So now, as you get these bodies into the van and you drive them away, where
Yeah.
did you take them, sir?
Up the road to Old Dixie Highway.
Old Dixie Highway. Now, what's on Old Dixie Highway, if you don't mind me asking?
Old Dixie Highway is a abandoned road, and it's blocked off by a sign, and it's just an old dirt road, and it's not really used. I think it's like a service road for the electric company. There's like there was an electric, some type of electric posts where they would work on the lines, and you know there was like a gate, and I believe that's what the road was mainly used for.
Now, at any point, you got 4 dead bodies in the minivan, decomposing bodies at that. So the smell was unpleasant in that vehicle. Did you have the windows rolled down, or you had them up with the air going? How did that happen?
Well, it was a short drive, probably less than a mile, so I rolled the windows down because the smell was unbearable, the flies were unbearable, and it was just a horrible experience.
Okay. At any point, were you afraid that someone may have gotten behind you, the police or something, and may have pulled you over with these bodies in the vehicle?
Yeah, the whole time I was just worried that, you know, somebody was going to find me or try to hurt me or try to, you know, do something to me if they see them. You know, all types of thoughts are going to my head. You know, am I going to live to see tomorrow? And the whole time I could only think about Tristan and his safety and making sure that he was safe, making sure that he had something to eat, making sure he didn't have to see anything, you know. So I try to clean up the mess as best as I could so Tristan wouldn't see any of it. I didn't want him to, you know, look at any of the mess that was left behind. So,
So with that being said, okay, you dropped the bodies, you went back to the house. Did you shower again, or what did you do after that?
after that, I believe I went back to the house. I showered, checked on Tristan, and a lot of times I would sit in the kitchen and I would smoke cigarettes, you know, drink a beer, and just start crying, and I would just be in shock a lot of times and just sit there for hours, you know, thinking about what happened. And if it really did happen, sometimes I felt like it was a bad dream that, you know, I was waiting to wake up from, you know, a bad nightmare actually that I was, you know, waiting to wake up from.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that would be something that I would want to wake up from too. As you was drinking the beer, smoking cigarettes, crying and everything, was
No.
the phone ringing at the home?
Yeah, their cell phones kept ringing, and I just kept, declining the calls. Eventually, I just turned off the phones. Family members was worried and looking for them. So the situation was getting worse and worse and worse, and time was running out. There was really nowhere to go. I had nowhere to go. I really don't have any family to go to here in Florida. So there was nowhere to go. And, my main concern was just keeping Tristan safe, making sure he had something to eat. And, the more I sat there, the more I lost it,
Right.
There
Now,
was no one to talk to.
Go ahead.
There was no one to talk to. There was no one, to look to for help.
Okay. So, how many 6 days you were there? Okay, the 6 days you were there, did any family member or anyone come to that house and knock on the door for the family?
No. No one came looking for the family. No.
Okay.
There was an unusual looking car outside that just was out of place. It seemed like it might have been one of Michelle Stinson's friends, and they sat outside one day for like an hour or two, and I thought it was a bit odd that they were, parked outside.
Okay. Now, is this true? Because this was in the media, so I got to ask this question. That the family breeded dogs and had a dog kennel, and they had expensive dogs. Is that true?
Yeah, her mom breeded rare dogs, labradoodles, and stuff like that.
Mr. Matos, is it true that you placed an ad on Craigslist to sell the dogs and you sold 6 dogs for $50 a piece? Is that true?
It was 10 dogs, and it was $50 a piece. And yes, I posted an ad on Craigslist and sold these dogs. There was 20 dogs in the house, and there was just way too many for us to take care of. She was actually trying to sell the dogs when we first got there, and the more they just sat in the house, the more they just kept multiplying, and it wasn't an environment for a child to grow up in. 20 dogs living under the same roof as our family. It was chaos. There was piss and shit all over the floor every day, and these dogs needed a home. So I sold them, and we needed the money for food.
Okay, so you didn't sell 6, you sold 10 dogs.
10 dogs.
10 dogs at $50 each. See, now this is why, the media gets stuff wrong, and that's why we have to go to the source to get everything corrected. So it was 10 dogs. Were the people coming to the home to purchase the dogs, or did you meet them elsewhere with the dogs?
They would come to the house, and they would come up to like the front of the house, by the front door, and I would bring the dogs out, and they would look at them and purchase them.
Okay. And at no point, no, I'm quite sure. Well, when you're staying in a home with bodies that are decomposing, that you become immune to the smell,
Right.
and so you probably didn't smell it, but they smelt it, because one gentleman, I believe it was a gentleman, they said that the police questioned him later on, and who purchased one of the dogs, and he clearly stated that he smelt a foul odor coming from the home as they was purchasing a dog. Do you remember that gentleman?
I don't, but I know that there was people at trial who testified, and They said that they remembered a foul odor. It was probably from a garage that was close to the front door.
Mm-hmm.
There was some rugs and blankets that still had blood on it. So the smell was coming from the garage, and the van, the minivan, had blood in it. So the smell, was pretty bad. And that smell, it never leaves your nose. It stayed in my nose probably for a month, and it's the worst smell ever. It's horrible.
Yikes. Now, at any point, okay, now I'm quite sure that van, they had to destroy that van afterwards because it was a hazardous. And
Yeah.
I'm quite sure that the home, in certain cases like that, they would destroy them. In some cases, they would send in professional cleaners to disinfect that home. Is the home still standing that you know of, or is gone?
I honestly don't know. It could be there, but I don't know.
Okay. Now let's go back to the night. Okay, when you drove the bodies off and you got rid of the bodies. The did you remove these bodies out of the van, or you left the van there with the bodies and walked back? What happened?
I removed them out of the van,
Okay.
and I left them on Old Dixie Highway, the abandoned road. There was a little, patch of grass, like off to the side, and that's where they were. That's where I left them.
Okay. Now, how did the police find the bodies? Did someone tip them off that the bodies were there? Or did you tell them the bodies were there?
Well, the day that they came for the welfare check, the officer that was knocking on the door, he came into the garage because he smelled the foul odor. And after that, he called in to the police department, and they sent out helicopters, and the helicopters found them.
Okay, so the helicopters are the ones that found them. And
Yeah.
to my understanding, you were already gone away from the home. They found you at a hotel. You and your son, you were getting ready to board a Greyhound bus and get out of town.
Yeah, I was just trying to buy more time with my son. I didn't want to lose him, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew that eventually I would have to answer for what happened. So that day when the officer came to the house, he was knocking on the door, and I saw the officer, and I woke up Tristan, and I quickly packed a bag with a few things, and we got out the house, and we left out the back door by the pool, and all the dogs came outside and followed me. The remaining, I believe it's 10 dogs, they followed me outside, and they tried going with me, but I couldn't bring them with me. They looked like they wanted to follow me, and they started to, and I had to go into the neighbor's yard to go in a different direction because the officer was outside of the house. So there was really no direction to go other than towards the end of our street, which led to a dead end in a cul-de-sac. So there was nowhere to go. It was a dead end, and the street was surrounded by water, because there was canals, throughout the neighborhood that led out to the Gulf of Mexico. And so we stood behind an empty house for probably a couple hours until it got dark. And once it got dark, that's when, before it got dark, I noticed that the helicopters flying in the sky, and I could tell that they were looking for something. They were looking for someone or for something, and they were just flying in circles. And then it started to rain and thunder, so that's when the helicopters disappeared. So once it got dark, Tristan and I started walking around that cul-de-sac looking for. I had to look for a way out, so I found a little. I think it's called a pontoon boat.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pontoon boat, sort of like a kayak. So I found the boat, and we used it to get across the canal. And once I got across the canal, we walked a few blocks and we sat down on a little bench next to the canal.
Okay.
So as we were sitting down, I called a taxi, and Tristan was getting tired. He was hungry and thirsty, so I knew I had to get him somewhere safe where he could lay down, sleep, get something to eat. So I called a taxi, and the guy picked us up, and he took us to Tampa. And when we got to Tampa, the bus station was already closed down for the night. So I asked the guy who was at the bus station if there was any hotels. And at this point, I knew, it was the end of the road. There was no delaying this any further, and all I wanted was just a little more time with my son before I had to answer for what happened.
Okay.
So I checked into the hotel. It was the Floridan Hotel, and I used my ID. I wasn't trying to hide who I was. If I was going to turn myself in, it was going to be on my own terms. So I did it in a safe public place, and I checked in with my own ID, and I figured that that's where they would find me. So that's where we slept for the night, and the next morning I get a call from the front desk, and they're telling me that the electricity went out and that I should come down, and they wanted to give me another room. So, I checked on Tristan to make sure he was okay before I stepped out the room, and I gave him a kiss on the head, and I stepped out the room, and when I got out the room, I seen something move down the hallway, and when I went to look, nothing was there, and I had a bad feeling that something was waiting for me at the end of the hallway. And when I got to the end of the hallway, there was another joining hallway, and as I slowly stepped towards that hallway, I could see that there was people waiting for me, and there was a bunch of guys in tactical uniform, black tactical uniform. They all had weapons, and they just stood there. No one made a move. I guess they was waiting for me to make a move, but it was just pure silence for about a minute, and then eventually, they took me down and arrested me.
Okay. Now, during the arrest, Tristan was still in the room, or he was in the hall with you?
No, he was in the room. He was sleeping.
Because so at this time, for you to leave Tristan in the room, you knew that the jig was up, and that was the police. You knew that, right?
Yeah, I had to leave him in the hallway, and I had to leave him in the room because once I stepped in the hallway, I knew someone was waiting for me. So I didn't want to bring him with me, just in case. I knew it was a setup at the front desk. The power went out. You know what I mean? Why would the power, have gone out? I knew something was going down. So, I knew that was it. It was the end of the road, and I couldn't bring him with me at that point. I couldn't bring him with me.
Okay. Now, let's go back to the home. Okay, when the police were there and the helicopter was flying around, at this time the police had made entrance to the home, and you were sitting by watching this not far away. You was just there watching everything that happened, or you were just trying to just find a way out?
At that point, I had to find a safe spot for Tristan because I didn't know if these cops were going to open fire on me, if they saw me or found me. There was 4 bodies. At that point, they knew if they would find me that they would probably react in a hostile manner. So, I was just doing everything I can to keep Tristan safe and get him somewhere where, I could keep him safe and figure out what the next move was before I turned myself in. Because I knew at some point I had to turn myself in, but I was just trying to delay the inevitable and spend more time with him. I didn't want to lose him.
Okay. Deputy Chief Medical Examiner Noel Palmer, detail how you shot 27-year-old Megan Brown, the mother of your son, point blank range in the eye, after fatally shooting her father, 52-year-old Gregory Brown, in the back and abdominal section. Palmer also detailed the hammer blows, 9 to the head of 52-year-old Margaret Brown and 21 or more blows to the head of Megan's new boyfriend, Nicholas, who was 37. Could you comment on that? Because, they're saying here that you shot the man, which would be Gregory. You shot him in the back and the abdominal section.
Yeah.
And Greg, they're pretty much saying you bashed his head open 21 times or more. Detail that to us, sir. Because like I said, police work is all guesswork. What do we got here? Mm-hmm.
It was either an exaggeration or they just didn't know what they were doing, because they didn't mention the bullet wound to Nicholas Leonard, and I clearly shot him when he was trying to shoot me with the weapon, and I finally got it out of his hands. While Greg was trying to shoot me, also they both were trying to shoot me. Once I got it out of his hands, there was a shot to the wall, and then I shot Nicholas in the stomach. And they never mentioned the bullet wound to his stomach. Apparently they either overlooked it or they didn't mention it for a reason, to withhold information or the truth. Basically, they were just trying to hide the truths. And the fact that they lied about how many times I hit him over the head was just, they were clearly trying to show that I'm some type of monster and, just using excessive force, which I didn't.
Okay.
I hit him a few times. I can't remember how many, but it wasn't 21 or more, and I didn't hit Margaret more than twice. I hit her 2 times, and after I hit her the second time, she was gone.
Okay,
She just exaggerated.
Mm-hmm. Over exaggerated. Okay, I can relate to the police over exaggerating, stuff, but I can agree with that. Okay. Now, Megan worked at the Fisherman Shack bar in Hudson. Is that correct?
Yep.
On the morning of Megan's death, which was August 28th, 2014, Megan sent her boss, James Sigler, a text message. The message read, "Jerry, some serious blank is going on. My son's dad tried to kill me with a knife, and he threatened to finish me off. My son's dad came home last night, and he put a knife to my throat and told me he was going to blanking kill me." Megan also sent Mr. Sigler another frantic text. "He's going to come back and finish me off." What was Megan talking about, sir?
She was talking about the argument that we had. She lied to the police. She said I put a knife to her throat. Obviously, I didn't, because if I put a knife to her throat, there would have been some type of cut marks on her neck, which there wasn't. The only cut mark that there was on her finger when she tried to take the weapon out of my hand. And all I did was try to scare her with it. If I would have tried to kill her, she would have been dead with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference of trying to kill someone and scaring someone, and she blew it way out of proportion. She was trying to get me arrested. She was upset. She was drunk. She just got back home from the bar, so she was still drunk from the bar, and she was very manipulating. She could manipulate any man, any woman. With her good looks, she could convince anyone, of her lies. So, for her to say something like that to the police, they just wrote it down and bought it.
Wow, that's deep. Now, I want you to go back, because now you said that Nicholas's ex-girlfriend she's the one allegedly that came to you or sent someone with information to let you know about what was going on with Megan and Nicholas. Is that correct?
Yeah, his ex-girlfriend, Michelle Stinson, she called me and, well, actually I called her the first time when some random stranger came to my house with her phone number, and we spoke a few times, and she told me about everything that was going on between Megan and Nicholas Leonard.
That sounds like something that a scorned lover would do. There's an ex, be messy. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I can honestly say that if this is the case, and she pretty much is the cause of why these four people was deceased, why wasn't she also charged with a crime? Do you know anything about that or not?
I think the officers just wanted to have their main person that they can seek the death penalty for. If they were going to try to charge her, they would have had to, seek probably death for her as well. So, for them to seek death for, her, I don't think that was something they were trying to, look into. And at that point, their main focus was on me. And, should they have looked further into it? Yeah, I do believe that they should have looked further into her involvement in the case, because at the time, the manipulation that was going on between Michelle Stinson, Megan Brown, and Nicholas Leonard had a lot to do with my mental state at that time when it all happened, leading up to it, the situation. So, I was under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And, at the time when these people tried to murder me, I went insane. Anybody under that much stress would go insane.
Okay.
I don't care what any doctor would say, especially in the state of Florida. I don't care what any doctor would say. These people are the reason for what happened. Not only did they try to murder me, but they were, they were puppeteers in this whole situation. They were pulling the strings and, making me lose it. They pushed me into a corner and ambushed me, and it had a lot to do with what led up to the situation and my mental state.
Okay. Now, let's talk about your childhood a little bit, Mr. Matos.
Yeah.
I was reading that you were bullied on by classmates in school when you were a young boy coming up. Is that true, sir?
Yeah. There was times when I lived in New Jersey. There was a town that we lived in that there was a lot of racist people, and they would pick on minorities, blacks, Puerto Ricans, Indians, and they used to pick on me and my brother, and they would pick on these Indian kids that used to hang out together. And after school, me, my mom, and my brother witnessed these people bullying these Indian people, and we offered to give them a ride home. And racism is an ugly thing, and bullying is an ugly thing. And growing up in Philadelphia, that was something that we really didn't see too much. I mean, it happened, but not as much, because in Philadelphia there was, all types of races. But, we learned how to live together in harmony and live amongst each other in peace, through all the races, and there was that brotherly love within Philadelphia.
Okay. Now, at times, is it true, Mr. Matos, that your mother would leave you and your brother at home alone for 2 weeks at a time? Is that true, sir?
Yes.
How did you were young, how did you fend for yourself as far as cooking, eating, and stuff of that nature?
When we were young, we had to learn how to grow up quick and take care of ourselves. There was times when our babysitters would be intoxicated, you know, drunk or high, and we would have to take care of ourselves. Whether it be cooking, or taking a bath, or anything like that. So there was times, when my mom would go on a vacation with her boyfriend at the time, and we had to take care of ourselves. We had to cook food and get ready for school. And there was times in Philadelphia when my mom had to go to work and she couldn't take me to school, and I had to take public transportation to school. At the age of I think it was 6, I was taking the SEPTA bus and train to get to school. So, at an early age, I had to learn how to grow up and just take care of myself and learn to do things.
Wow. So, at this point in your life, as you was growing up and it was hard for you coming up, right now, your son, do you worry about your son? Is your son in good health? Is he's being taken care of correctly? Because, as coming up, we don't want our children to live life the way that we did. We want life to be more simple and more easy for them. So we would go out and do whatever we had to do to make sure that they did not repeat that cycle. Well, I know that's exactly what I did for mine. So, right now, how do you feel about that, knowing that, you have no idea of what's going on with Tristan?
I worry about him every single day, every moment of every day. I worry about him. I dream about him every day, and I miss him more than anything. I love my son more than anything, and he's my world. And I worry about him every day. What is he doing? How's he doing in school? Or kids picking on him? Is he getting into fights at school? I worry about that type of stuff every day. But I have a lot of faith in God, and I have faith in the people who are taking care of him. I know that they treat him like a king, and he's in good hands. He's being cared for, and I can only hope and pray that they're teaching him to be a good man and do the right thing and get good grades in school. And I just hope, pray for the best, and I continue to worry about him. And although I don't have any contact with him, I know that he's in good hands, and I know he's being cared for and he's being loved. And I know Tristan is a good kid, and he's gonna be a good man when he grows up. I know that. In my heart, I know he's gonna be a good man.
Okay. Do you know who has custody of Tristan?
I believe it's his. I want to say his late grandmother's sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Matos, you did escape the death penalty, am I correct, sir?
Yes.
So, how many jurors held out on not wanting to sentence you to death?
Well, there was 12 jurors, and they had to vote on each individual count. So there was 4 counts of first-degree murder, so they had to vote on each individual count. The first 3 counts, they voted 10-2. 10 saying death, 2 saying life. On the last count, which was Margaret's, they voted 11-1. 11 people choosing death, 1 choosing life.
Okay. Because prosecutor Chris Labruzzo, he wanted the death penalty real bad in your case. Labruzzo stated the murders were especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. Do you agree with him? Well, I'm quite sure you may agree with him on that, but did he look upset that he did not get the death penalty? And did the families also look upset? Seem to be upset?
They were very upset and emotional when they didn't get the death penalty.
Wow. I mean, Well, I don't understand. You're in prison for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So I mean, you're not getting out. What more do they want from you? They just wanted you to suffer as well, and to die. I'm not gonna say suffer, but they just wanted you out of the way, and I guess that would make them feel better, and they have their revenge or their vengeance because you would be dead.
Right. Well, they didn't get the death penalty for a reason. I believe the jurors, when they went to, you know, vote on those case counts, they knew something wasn't right about the case. They knew there was missing pieces in the state side.
You have 1 minute remaining.
And I think deep down in their hearts, they didn't want to send an innocent man to death row. Even though I did what I did, I wasn't guilty of first-degree murder. It was self-defense. Stand your ground. These people were trying to kill me. I defended myself.
Okay. Now, Mr. Matos, at
Yes, sir.
any given time, okay, now explain to me. We had a conversation, and you was telling me about the flies that were all came into where the bodies were. And what was that like? All those big blowflies.
Oh, it was a nightmare. This was probably the creepiest experience ever. Once the flies came, there must have been thousands of them, and it sounds like I was standing under a power line. That hum that you hear when you're under a power line, It sounded just like that, but it was intensified. Yeah, it was horrible, and there was maggots all over, and it was the most horrifying experience ever.
Wow. Okay, now I want to take it back a little bit again to the van. When you pulled into the little dirt road, the abandoned road, and you were getting rid of the bodies, how long did that take you to discard of those 4 bodies that was in the van?
Probably 30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, it took less time taking them out than it did getting them in.
Now, those bodies at the time, were they starting to swell up, and the skin? I'm quite sure the skin was like real slippery, and
Oh yeah.
and the odor was there. Did you have gloves, or you did this with your bare hands and was getting all that bodily fluids on your hands and everything?
I believe I used some type of work gloves or something to get a good grip, because they were slimy, they were bloated, and decomposing. The smell was horrible, and as I took them out, I had to use all my energy to pull them out of the vehicle and bring them over onto the grass off the road. So it was exhausting. It was hot outside. It was at the peak of summer, so it was hot. It was nighttime, but it was still hot, and I was sweating a lot. It was horrible.
Okay. Yeah, I'm quite sure it was. Okay. Now, when you took the bodies out, did you stack them on top of each other, side by side, or did you leave them out in the open, or did you drag them over to the side so no one could see them, or you just left them out in the open?
It was off the road, like close to the bushes, where it was at a spot you really couldn't see it if you were walking by. So I stacked them next to each other, and then I think I put like a big branch on top of them, kind of to like hide them a little bit. And as I'm doing this, I'm losing my mind. You know, this whole experience is just, you know, like it it it's just devastating, and it you know, it just tore my mind apart. You know, as I'm doing this, you know, it's the most uh, it's just crazy situation to be in. You know, and I was losing my mind, going insane, doing this because you know I couldn't leave them in the house, and you know it's just you know what do you do in a situation like that? You know, it's you know I guess you know just get them out the house so Tristan wouldn't you know have to see them, and you know getting them out of the house was the only thing I could do to you know stop you know Tristan from seeing them and from the smell from getting worse. And it was a horrible experience. It was a nightmare.
Okay. Now, Mr. Matos, it's only one of the victims I'm concerned about. As you were removing the bodies out of the vehicle or into the vehicle, and you got to Megan's body,
Yeah.
what was that like for you? This is a woman that
It
you love, you had a child with, and
it
was
it
hoping to marry.
it tore me to pieces. It took every bit of energy to to you know to go through with moving all of them, but especially her. You know, it took all my energy and it tore me apart. You know, I was so heartbroken from the situation and you know what I did. You know, I just felt terrible. My heart was broken, and all I did was cry. Like every moment of each day, I just poured my heart out in tears, and I couldn't stop thinking about her. You know, even after the situation, I felt like she was gonna come back home and just walk in the door, and I would just know that it was all a nightmare. And I just kept hoping that it was a nightmare. Each day that I woke up, I was praying that it was a nightmare. All that was just you know, and it wasn't. It was a horrible, sad reality. And you know, when I first had to move her in the house, you know, I just broke down and started crying, and I sat there next to her, you know, just holding her and just crying and crying and crying and crying and just asking God why did this happen? And you know, I love her very much. You know, I'll always love her, no matter what happened. Even though they try to murder me, I still love her. You know, and I've learned to forgive. You know, hate is a terrible thing to have in your heart, and it'll tear you apart. You know, it'll destroy you if you allow it to. And I learned to forgive them. I learned to forgive her. You know, for the betrayal, for trying to murder me, everything that she did to me. I learned to forgive her because it was the only way my heart could be free.
Now, when you say that you sat next to her body and you held her deceased body, was this the night of you killing her, or was this during the decomposing stages of her body?
No, it was the first night that this all happened, and after everything was done, you know, I just I couldn't believe that all that happened in one day. You know, it was just like, what the hell, what the hell is going on? You know, I didn't plan for any of this to go, you know, happen. You know, all this was just a unfortunate event. You know, and it was a nightmare. And you know, when it was all when it was over, it was like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? You know, the day before we're all sitting down eating a meal together, and the next day there's no one to have a meal with except me and Tristan. And the silence in the house was just it was so creepy, because the house used to be filled with people moving around and talking and laughing and listening to music, and now there was nothing but silence.
So, Mr. Matos, when you got to Nicholas' body, okay, of just moving it, did you feel any remorse for him, or did you was just pretty much like, screw you, all of this is because of you, or what was your actions like when you got to his body to remove his body?
As far as Nicholas goes, he's just a dude that didn't use his brain. He was thinking with he was thinking with his dick instead of his brain, and he put himself in a situation which he shouldn't have. He made a bad choice by trying to come to my home and murder me. This guy didn't even know me. He didn't even know her. Why would you go through all the trouble to try to murder me for some woman you don't even know? So as far as I'm concerned, he's the villain. You know what I mean? He's the villain of this catastrophe. He should have never come to my home with a loaded weapon. He should have never tried to murder me. And if he would have never brought his weapon to my house, these people would still be alive. I would have went back home, collected my things, talked to Megan, said sorry, said bye to Tristan, and said, hey, maybe later down the road we could be a family again. But that didn't happen because this fucking guy was in my home and he tried to murder me. You know what I mean? He's the reason for this. And as far as remorse goes, I really don't feel any remorse for him. But was it unfortunate that he died? Yeah, it was unfortunate, but it was his fault that he brought this upon himself and upon everyone.
So at the end of the day, would you say Nicholas got what he had coming to him?
Well, I don't know if I would say it like that, but you reap what you sow. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Now here's. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
I didn't ask him to come to my home with his loaded weapon. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go to another woman's house with a loaded weapon if she just had an argument with her dude. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go into that situation and make it worse by doing that. I'm going to say, look, you know what I mean? Handle your business, and when you handle your business, come talk to me. You know what I mean? If things don't work out with you and your dude, and you go separate ways, and you want to talk to me down the road, maybe we could work something out. But I'm not going to come to her house and try to, play the hero by bringing my loaded weapon. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, anybody in the right state of mind would be like, that's probably not going to turn out right. I'm probably going to escalate the situation. What if this guy comes home? Collect his stuff, say goodbye to his son. What's going to happen if, we have a confrontation? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now,
I'm sure he knew all these possibilities, and he put himself in that situation, and he knew where it was going to lead.
Okay. Now, at the end of the day, did the police ever retrieve the handgun you used, which was a Kel-Tec 9mm? Did they ever find that gun, or you disposed of it?
No, I don't think it was a 9mm. It was like it was a smaller caliber. I want to say, I can't remember the caliber, but it was a much smaller caliber. It wasn't a 9mm.
Possibly a 380?
Yes, I
Okay.
think it was a 380.
Okay. Did they ever retrieve that gun, or did they ever find it? I mean,
Yes,
okay, they
yes.
retrieved it.
They found it in the canal behind the house. I threw all the firearms in the canal. I think that same night, because I was just so devastated by what these firearms could do. I didn't want them in the house anywhere near Tristan. You know, like these guns are they were danger to everyone in the house, and I already witnessed what guns could do. I didn't want them anywhere near Tristan, so I took all the weapons and got them as out of reach of Tristan or anyone else, and I threw them in the canal.
Okay. It was written that you used one of the victim's credit cards to order pizza. Is that true,
Yeah.
Mr. Matos?
Yes, I believe I used Margaret's credit card to order pizza because I didn't have any cash on me. My check was at my job, and I couldn't pick it up at that time. And so I had to feed Tristan, so I used her credit card to order pizza.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
I wasn't in the right state of mind while this was all going on, but making sure that he was fed and taken care of, was my main concern. So I ordered a pizza. It was quick, and I really didn't want people coming to the house, but getting Tristan fed quickly was my main concern. And I wasn't in the right state of mind to go in the kitchen and start cooking a meal and all that. So I ordered a pizza. It was quick, it was easy, and Tristan loved pizza. He loves pizza.
Okay. Now, Mr. Matos, would you say that you need some psychiatric help and you shouldn't be in prison and you should be in a mental hospital? And the reason why I asked this question is because I let a homicide officer, retired homicide officer, listen to your interview. And he said that this man should not be in prison. He should be in a mental hospital. What man kills 4 people and live in the home with these 4 bodies for 1 week? Only an insane man would do that. And he was just saying that if you were here in Michigan, you would have been placed in a mental institution because a sane person does not kill 4 people and live in the house with them for 6 days, rotting, stinking, and decomposing the way that you did.
And that's the problem with the Florida system. They don't care about what your mind, they don't care what's wrong with your mind or if you're crazy or insane. All they care about is putting people in prison for a long time. And that's the problem with the Florida law system. They are not compassionate, and they don't use any type of logical thinking when it comes to handling certain cases. Clearly, I was not in the right state of mind. I lost my mind, and I was insane while this was happening. And, anyone in the right state of mind would have left that house the moment this happened. They would have left. They wouldn't have stood in the house and waited for the cops to come and, deal with the smell of decomposing bodies. And, I lost my mind. I was clearly insane while this was going down. These people tried to murder me. Megan, Gregory, and Nicholas, especially during the time when they were trying to murder me, that's when I lost my mind and snapped and lost touch with reality. When people have multiple guns pointed at you and they're pulling the trigger, trying to get a shot off, your mind is mentally preparing itself for death. And in that moment, there is some chemical being released in your brain, so it protects you, so you don't have to feel the pain.
Exactly.
And in that moment, that's what was happening to me, and that right there is proof that I was not in the right state of mind. When that process happens to your brain, you are not thinking clearly anymore. You know what I mean? You lose touch with reality.
Okay, and he brought up another good question, and he wanted to know is like, was it brought up in court at your trial? Why was this man even in the home with a loaded handgun? And he wanted to know, was the gun an illegal handgun or was it registered to him? That was questions. Was those questions asked?
They never even mentioned it. My attorneys, they did the best when it came to saving my life from the death penalty, but they didn't do the best when it came to protecting me of my rights. They didn't really try too hard because they were public defenders.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a paid attorney, I'm sure he would have did a lot more to help me and fight. But state of Florida, they don't really care about your rights. They don't, all they want to do is send you to jail. They don't care if you're innocent. They just want to get a conviction, and it's inhumane how they treat people in certain cases. When people lose their minds, when you're put in a situation where you have to defend yourself, they don't care about who's right or wrong. They just want a conviction, and they did nothing to bring up the issue about his gun and why he brought it to the house. Did he have a permit to carry a gun? Was it was the gun in his name? Was it a legitimate gun? They didn't mention any of this, and they wanted to keep all that out because it would probably have hurt their side. And the judge, she did everything in her power to aid the state. She even went as far as showing them YouTube videos of how to hack into my cell phone, even after she already made it clear that she was going to get a warrant to get into the phone anyway. They sent the phone to Apple out in California. In California, had to get into my phone to retrieve certain files so they can show it in court, because I didn't remember my passcode. I didn't use my phone for 3 years by the time we went to trial, and she expected me to remember my password, which I didn't. So she made it clear by repeating it over and over. Oh, he's refusing to give us the passcode. Do anything in your power to hack into the phone. We're going to get a warrant, but in the meantime, come look over here on my laptop computer. Here's a YouTube video of how to bypass the iOS lock screen. And it's right there in the courtroom. She's showing a YouTube tutorial to the state attorneys on how to bypass the iOS 7 or iOS lock screen. And she's not allowed to do that. She's not an investigator or detective, and you're not allowed to be doing that. That's the state attorney's job. Why are you doing their job?
Mm-hmm.
And even during the jury pool, when we were selecting a jury, there were so many errors that the judge and the state attorneys made when we were picking jurors. They struck out all the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
So they made sure that I had 0 minorities in my jury.
Wow.
Because obviously Pasco County is racist, and they don't want minorities on a death penalty trial, because it might hurt their chances of getting someone sent to death row.
Right. Now, is it true that one of Nicholas's friends were coming to testify that Nicholas had the gun and it was an illegal handgun, and the prosecutor shut him down real quick and did not let him
Yes,
testify. Is that true?
yes. They did everything they possibly could when it came to the truth coming out. They would stop it right there. They would have a sidebar, and then they would continue. And then they would, leave all that out. They would tell the jury, hey, anything you heard, disregard it. When Nicholas Leonard's friend came to trial, he testified and said that he gave him a ride the morning of August 28th. He gave him a ride to the bar that he was at the night before with Megan to retrieve his truck.
Mm-hmm.
And was in his vehicle driving him to get his truck. Nicholas told him that he had his firearm with him and that if given the opportunity, he would use it against me to shoot me and take my life. And as he was trying to explain that, the state attorney quickly stopped him and objected and cut him off, and they left all that out and never revealed it to the jury. And there was times when I was trying to explain things that Nicholas Leonard was trying to tell me when he talked to me the day of, before the incident. He was telling me that he's done with Megan and he doesn't want to see her anymore.
Right.
That she's a bipolar whore and he doesn't want anything to do with her. And they made sure they stopped me and tried to leave that out of the trial. And they told the jury to disregard that because they didn't feel like it was something that should be shared. They didn't feel that it was important, but it was, to show what state of mind he was in. And also, it was an excited utterance. They say that hearsay can't be admitted into, into a trial in the state of Florida, but only when it's an excited utterance. And at that time, he sounded excited, and he was telling me this. He was screaming on the phone, excited, saying, "Oh, she's a crazy whore. She's bipolar. I'm done with her. I don't want anything." You know what I mean? Whenever her phone calls to her friends or the police, they made sure all that was put into trial. All that was excited utterance. But they did everything in their power to make sure they aided the state and pretty much railroad me.
Wow. Now, yeah, because that is hearsay, and they would not, allow that in court. In court, when they brought in certain, I don't know, was it video or evidence, they claimed that Tristan was, after they got him, he was shocked for a few days. He wasn't speaking to no one, wasn't talking or doing anything. He was quiet. But after a few days, he started talking, and he grabbed a dowel, wrapped the dowel up in a sheet or something, and started banging it on the table, and was saying that Megan was saying, "Stop, please, please stop." Where did that come from, sir?
As far as him playing with his toys, it was just probably normal, typical child behavior of just, playing with toys. I mean, they brought him to a room where there was a bunch of toys lying around. He was just, being a kid, having fun, playing with the toys. As far as his testimony, there was so many different versions of what he said and what he did. It's really hard to believe, what these people were saying, because a lot of their witnesses that was brought in lied about so much. I mean, there was hardly a witness from the state that actually said something that was truthful. So as far as, the people from child services, the medical experts, witnesses from the neighborhood or family members, most of these people lied under oath and was not truthful at all. So it's hard to believe anything from the state side.
It was said that you and Margaret Brown did not have the best relationship. That pretty much she wanted you gone from the home and wanted you out. Is that true, sir?
Probably towards the end, she probably wanted me out. Um, there's a theory that they brought me to Florida because they wanted to avoid a legal battle, a legal domestic battle for Tristan. As far as custody goes, in the state of Pennsylvania, if if one parent has custody and one has visitation rights, if the one with the custody should leave the state, by law they're supposed to notify the courts that they're changing address so they can get the other parent's approval, or at least go through the court system first to see what the courts have to say about it. Now, Megan didn't do any of that, so her mother, this is all theoretical, because I never got like confirmed proof, but there was family members that told my lawyers. Apparently, the Browns told my lawyers that this was their intention. So I didn't hear from their mouths personally, but my lawyers heard from Megan's family members that they brought me to Florida because they just wanted to avoid that legal battle.
Okay.
So, whether they used me, that's a good possibility that they just used me to go to Florida, help them move, and to avoid the custody battle, and also, as far as me and Margaret, our relationship was not always the best relationship, but I always treated her with respect, and I always loved her and treated her like she was my own family member.
Okay, I understand that. Now,
Yeah.
as we went, now you already laid the theory out. Well, you laid the truth out of it. Your truth of it that, bam, Nicholas was going first. Bam, then Greg was going second. Bam, Megan was third. Then bam, Margaret was last. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yep. That's right.
Okay, because now the media is twisting it and saying, well, like not the media, but the guesswork of the police say that they believe that you watched Margaret come in when she got in the garage. You attacked her first, then you made your way up and wiped out the rest of the people that were in the house. Is that true?
No, that's not true at all. That version of the story, that lie that the state has come up with, it's just a crazy version of what really happened. I mean, like, they're trying to portray me as this monster who planned it out and kill these people, with premeditation, and that's not what happened. Clearly it was self-defense, and when that happened, it started with Nicholas Leonard. I mean, why would I go and wait for Margaret to come home so I can, attack her? And, also the fact that there was dogs in the house, they would have woke up everyone in the house. And, by the time I would have got upstairs to get the other three, they would have already been awoken by the dogs barking to the noise that was happening in the garage. And if they woke up from all that noise, they would have called the cops. You know what I'm saying? It's just impossible, and it's just illogical. Like, it pisses me off that they would even try to say something like that. But the state, they don't really care about the truth. They only care about getting a conviction, and that's all they care about. They don't care if they have to lie, what story they have to twist and come up with. They just take whatever little bit of evidence, facts that they believe that they have, and they twist it to the way that they see fit.
Right. As I've always said, police work is nothing but guesswork. Without
Right.
you talking to them or giving them a statement, it's all guesswork. And
Yeah.
when you guess, a lot of times guessing is wrong. Sometimes they
Yeah.
may hit it on the head, but a lot of times it's all guesswork. Tristan will be 12 years old this
Yeah.
year.
This week.
This week.
This.
Okay. Now, that means Tristan has 6 more years to go before his 18th birthday.
Yes.
Now, if that time arrives and Tristan reaches out to you and asks you, Dad, what happened? Why did
Yeah.
you do what you did? What would you tell Tristan if he was there looking you in your face and ask you that question?
I'll tell him the truth. I'll tell him I did what I had to do to protect us. To protect him and to protect me, protect our lives. Our lives were in danger. Protect us from getting killed. Her mother and these people put us in danger, put our lives in danger, and I had to protect us. And if I didn't protect us, there's a good chance that she would have been having this conversation with you right now and asking and telling you, what happened to me. Why is Adam dead right now? It'd be a different conversation right now.
Right, okay. No, that's understandable. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So, without any doubt, you love your son. Do you love your son and you miss your son?
I love my son. I miss my son more than anything. And if I got the opportunity to speak to him, I would let him know what happened. I would tell him the truth, and I would tell him how much I love him, how much I care for him, how much I want to see him do good things. I want to be there to see him succeed in life and do the right thing. And I wish I was there for that. I wish I was there for all the things that he's accomplished, and been there to see him grow. I'm really missing out on that, and it kills me. It kills me every day that I'm missing out on that.
Okay, that's understandable. All right. Now, Mr. Matos, at any point right now, do you still, these years later on down the line, do you still love Megan, or the love is past and gone?
Oh yeah, of course. I still love her every day. I'll always love her, even though she tried to kill me and try to have her father and her crazy new boyfriend kill me. Yeah, I still love her. But I've learned to forgive. I can't live the rest of my life hating people because they try to murder me. Because carrying that hate is a heavy burden, and that's something no one should carry. So I learned to let that anger and that hate go for what they tried to do to me, and learn to forgive, and continue to love her. Because I remember the good times that we had together. It wasn't always a bad moment. There was some good moments, and those are the good memories that I like to hold on to and cherish. Times that we spent with Tristan.
Okay, that's understandable, and that's a good thing. Now, Mr. Matos, I want to say this was a great interview that I had with you, and you were straightforward, and you kept everything, in the manner of telling it straight down the middle, straightforward. Didn't try to sugarcoat anything, and you kept it 100.
Yeah.
And my audience is going to appreciate you for that. Now, Mr. Matos, I have another question I have to ask you.
Okay.
Okay, after we run this interview, and my audience, I have a new thing where I want to start doing a live stream, where I'm doing it live, and you and we're on the phone the way we are now, live with an audience.
Yep.
And it's called the thing is going to be you be the judge, and I'm going, after my audience listen to the interview and everything, we're going to let them come in and we're going to let them ask questions. And are you willing to answer questions from people from the audience?
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Most definitely. Well, Mr. Matos, I really appreciate that. And I want you to do one thing before we end this interview. I want
Okay.
you to call out your information so people can write you and talk with you. Because some people may want to speak with you and talk with you. Give them your
Okay.
information, your JPay information.
Okay. My information is Adam Matos. Uh, that's just spelled Adam, last name Matos, and my DC number is 158452. You can add me on JPay. You can download the app on your phone, and we can start talking that way. I'm not sure the address to the prison I'm at, but I'm sure I could get it for anyone who needs it. It's Wakulla Prison. It's in Florida. Not sure the address I just got here, but JPay is the quickest way.
Okay. And I'll make sure that if anyone wants the address, I'll make sure to leave it in the comment section of the video so they can write you. But I think the people will really want to do it the easy, quick way through JPay because it's email and everybody
Yeah.
can get to you. And Mr. Matos, I really want to thank you for giving us this interview. You know, you've been patient with me and you sat down with me for a few days for us to go through this interview, and I greatly appreciate you, and I know that my audience are going to be greatly appreciative of hearing your side of the truth, sir.
Yes, no problem. It's been a pleasure helping you. Bring some things to light, and answer the questions that people had. You know, and I'm looking forward to doing this live interview and answering some questions for anybody who wants to know what's going on. With the situation.
No problem. Well, Mr. Matos, I thank you very much, and we're going to wrap this interview. So just please
Okay.
hold on a second, and I'm going to kill out everything so we can done deal. I want to thank my audience, and I want to thank the members only first who will have the interview full before I start dropping the to the rest of the people. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for enjoying this interview with Mr. Matos. Peace and love to the Real World Podcast family.